What is going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast, and today we have, as always, my boy Andrew, episode 49. We are 1 week away from 50 episodes, grinding it out week after week, doing what we got to do. This is so much fun. We love it. Andrew, how are we feeling? Football, it's officially back. At least college, football is back, but football is officially back. How are we feeling right now?
Oh man, I feel so excited, man. Football is finally back. We have games. We're recording this on a Thursday, so we have games tonight.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, we have games, a couple games tomorrow, and then obviously the big slate on Saturday. So college football is finally here. Football in general is finally here. We have the NFL next week. Obviously, that'd be our 50th episode. Is the NFL season being back? I'm excited for it. I cannot wait to talk some NFL football and college football. So it's a great time to be alive. Football's actually back now.
Absolutely. And I think, as always, that for us, it's like Christmas morning for us. You know, football season is such a fun time for us, whether it's just because we get to watch games again, or because of fantasy, betting. Because I personally, when it comes to betting, I really like to bet on football more than I'd like to bet on anything else.
Yeah.
Baseball's a little more unpredictable. And basketball is kind of like 50-50 too. I mean, it's not difficult to bet on basketball, but some guys just will not do what they're capable of doing on that specific night that you decide to put in a $10 bet to win $50. And you're like,
Yeah.
God bless it, man. Like I should have done this. I should have done this. Football, it's a little bit easier because there's a little more leeway in what you're allowed to bet on. You know, you can bet on receptions, you can bet on yards, you can bet on scores, you can bet literally on almost anything when it comes to football, and that's the beauty of it. Where basketball and baseball, there's a lot more things that are a little more
And,
difficult to try to predict.
and football can honestly be very generous and give you better odds than basketball and baseball, because I look at some of like these baseball games, like I'll bet on like Stephen Kwan to get a hit and it's like minus like 350 or like minus 4, and it's like, okay, those
Yeah.
are very, like, if I really want good odds, I would have to bet on like Tyler Freeman to get a hit, just, and it's still like minus like 150, and I'm like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
it's so annoying because then, and again, for like pitchers, like I'll have like Tanner Bybee at 5.5, and it's like the over 5.5 is like maybe like minus like 110. But then if you just wanted to do the solid just 5, because you're scared if he doesn't get to 6, you just want to make sure
Yeah.
he gets to 5, then it's like minus like 375 to 4 minus 400. I'm like, oh my god, like the odds are just terrible. Same with
Hmm.
basketball, like Darius Garland, 10 plus points. Well, he's been averaging 10 all season,
Yeah.
but somehow somebody's still minus 450, and you're like, what the hell? Like, he hasn't even been averaging 10 points, and
Yeah.
it's minus 450. Like, are you kidding? Are you expecting him to drop 30 tonight?
Yeah.
So it makes football is a little bit more, because I could bet like Nick Chubb 75 plus rushing yards, and it's like minus like at least like 220,
Yeah.
and I could parlay that with something else and make it like plus 170 odds and at least double my money at that rate.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a lot easier to try to predict it and try to get some better odds in your favor. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, between that, I think it's all just more fun for us. And
Yeah.
so what I wanted to do, since we did a mock draft last week, I actually want us to go ahead and share what some of our drafts went through. So I went through one draft. Andrew went through a few. So this weekend was very busy, especially for him. But I gotta say, the lineup that I have right now and just the team that I drafted, I think I came out with a really, really solid team. And I actually kind of went into it almost the same way that I went into it in the mock draft for me. I took a quarterback a little bit earlier on, and I think it paid off tremendously, especially with my keeper. So I guess before I go into mine, I am just curious as to like kind of what your strategies were for your drafts, because you probably had a lot different picks, so you got to kind of
Yeah.
play the field in different ways.
Yeah, and so far I've done 3 drafts and I still have a couple more to go. To be honest,
Yeah.
I still got a few more to go, but I I did 3 drafts already, and I've had the 10th pick out of 12 in one draft. I had the last pick out of 8, so I was the eighth pick in another league. That's just with some old college friends, and
That one
then
has to be stacked too with an 8 man team. You got some
yeah.
super teams on those probably.
Oh god, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then another league that I did have been doing with my old high school soccer teammates since like 14 years ago. Like we still do a league together, and it's been amazing. And we did a draft there, and I wouldn't say I was like the fifth overall pick out of 10, so I was like that smack dab right in the middle. So,
Yeah.
but each draft I looked into it very differently because again the level of competition in each of those drafts were so different.
Yeah.
So I had a different mindset, and it's going to be the same thing because I have a draft Saturday and I have one on I think next Wednesday as well, and then we have
And
our
yeah,
uh,
our
rookie
dynasty team.
our
Yeah.
rookie drafts for our dynasty coming up too. So again, just the different levels of competition. I look at to it and be like, okay, maybe some of my college friends they don't draft well at all, so I have to go into this mindset.
Yeah.
The other two leagues draft a little bit better, so I have to up my mindset just a little bit. I can't dumb it down and do anything crazy. So I tried to keep it as simple as I could, and I tried to go. My main strategy was go for the high volume target players on each team, no matter who it was. Just get the guy with the most volume, and that was the main source of my strategy.
Did you have any guys that you went into each draft with saying like, "Hey, this is gonna be like my guy," and on almost every team? Like, did you have that guy that you just were like, "Yep, like I gotta have him on almost every team"?
So there's a guy that I think I was able to get for every single team, and that one guy was Terry McLaurin.
Mm.
Because for me, Terry McLaurin has always been the number one guy in Washington. He's the only guy in Washington. For me, he finally has a quarterback now in Jaden Daniels, and everyone's saying Jaden Daniels has been looking really good, and him and Terry McLaurin have been connecting very well. Terry McLaurin, even with all the bum quarterbacks he's had over the last few seasons, still surpasses 1,000 receiving yards. And like I said, he's the number one and only receiver that they have, so he's consistently getting every single target thrown his way.
Yeah.
So the one guy that I've definitely been gunning after in these drafts has been an underrated guy that's been going in these drafts, and that's Terry McLaurin. I think everyone should be drafting him and
Oh
trying
yeah.
to go for him because again, the number one receiver on the team, the only receiver on the team, the only guy that Jane Daniels has to look forward to. It's almost like drafting Marvin Harrison
Yeah.
for the Cardinals. Like, yeah, he's a rookie, but still a receiver Kyler Murray's got.
Yeah.
And
Eh,
so those are the guys you
He
want.
Yeah, and Marvin Harrison went pretty early in my draft. I think he went either around like 2 or 3.
He's been going in rounds 2 or 3 in
Yeah.
every draft. So
So I mean he's obviously going to be up there. You obviously have Trey McBride there as well, who's going to be probably a top 3 tight end this year in fantasy,
mhm.
um, unless you have guys like because Hawkinson won't have as good of a year because he's obviously hurt.
Yeah,
Laporta is going to have up and down year this year because I think he's also hurt as well. Mark Andrews has the capability of being a top tight end, but he's also having Isaiah likely, and he's also been hurt quite a few times. And Kelsey
yeah,
is always going to be up there, but I think this year. Uh, Kansas City has a lot more guys to throw to finally, and so I think
yeah.
it's actually going to take off some of that pressure for for Kelsey. But I still think he's going to be a top, at least 5 tight end this year in fantasy. No question about that. Travis is one of the best. So yeah, in terms of like the way that my draft went, so when we did our mock draft, I had spot 6th, and in my draft I had spot 4. So I had your spot,
Yeah.
and I forget who you took. I think you took CD there. Yeah, you did because you wanted to pair it up with Dak. I don't know if you did or not.
I'm gonna go back to the mock draft that we did and take a
Yeah.
gander.
So I took St. Brown at 6th in that draft, and at 4, I also took St. Brown. I want to say CD went before him, but even so, they did not do the deal yet, and I wasn't sure what was going on with CD, so I decided to pass on him because, simply put, though, Amon St. Brown is still going to be an absolute machine this year.
Yeah.
Um, he's still going to be a guy that's going to have well over 1,200 yards this year. He may even get to that 1,500 uh, goal that he's been wanting. So,
I also have it pulled up.
yeah,
I got CD, and then I was able to pair it with Dak Prescott later in the draft.
yeah. So, yeah, that's what I remembered. So, I also remember from that draft, I think I took a quarterback in the 3rd round of that draft. I don't know if I picked Mahomes or not.
You did.
But in this draft, I also picked Mahomes. And instead of picking Derrick Henry, I took Pacheco, and I really thought pairing him with Kyron Williams, who was again my keeper, in this draft. So, wow. Hold on 1 second. I just got a ticker about San Fran. Is this legit with Ayuk? I believe they finally had their deal. So it sounds like Ayuk just got signed to a 4-year,
Yep.
$120 million deal.
I'm on Twitter
Yeah,
from Adam Schefter. There will be no
yeah.
trade. The 49ers and Brandon Ayuk have reached an agreement on a 4-year extension that will contractually tie the whole wide receiver to San Francisco for the next 5 years.
Yep.
The
Okay.
drama is over and a deal is in place.
Cool. So yeah, that's cool that literally just broke midway through our set. That'll be dope. We'll definitely try to clip that and put that on TikTok. So yeah, Brandon Ayuk stays in San Fran. That's cool. And we'll talk about that a little bit too. Once we get to Browns talk. But to get back to my fantasy, so I pretty much went into this draft though. To build around my keeper. And I've been doing that the last 2 years now, and I think it's been a really beneficial thing for me to do. Because again, when Kyron Williams was going in the 2nd round in like almost every draft, I knew that I didn't have to prioritize, running back that heavy. But I also knew that I could get some really good receivers from rounds like 4 to like 8 and 10 and still come out on top. So, after Pacheco, I got Pat Mahomes. So my top 3 guys were St. Brown, Mahomes, and Pacheco. So I had my 2 running backs, number 1 wide receiver, and a quarterback who's going to be a top quarterback anyway, right away. And I ended up going with a few more wide receivers. So I guess I'll just kind of go through my current lineup right now, and then I'll tell you guys my bench. But after those guys, I took Devonta Smith. I have Kyle Pitts, who some people aren't too high on. I personally think he's going to have a better year because he's got Kurt. And I think anytime you bring in a new quarterback and a new system, I think their favorite thing to do is go to a tight end. And Kyle Pitts is a very large guy, so he should get red zone targets out the wazoo. Between him and Drake London, Kurt has legit size to throw to. So he should have no problem. And then at my flex, I have Zay Flowers, who there's some people also not super high on him. But he's wide receiver 1 still. And even if they run the ball 30 times with Derrick Henry and run Lamar 10 or 12 more times, Zay is still going to get his snags. He may not score as much, but he's always going to be a guy that's going to have like 8 targets or 10 plus targets a game, just because he doesn't have a lot of people to throw to. But even so, my other wide receivers are Keenan Allen, Kirk Coleman, who was a guy that I really was banking on getting throughout those mid rounds, and I'm glad I got him. I also came out with Mozart from Miami, so he is my 3rd running back, and then Jerry Jeudy, Trey Benson, Donnie Mitchell. And then I also picked up. So this was big brained by me, and I thought this was really smart. So I had gone almost the entire draft without drafting a backup quarterback because there was a lot still on the waiver that were very, very good to pick up. So I ended up doing that. But the way that I did it, my very last pick I took was T.J. Hawkinson. And what I did was I put him on my IR list and immediately just filled that spot with guy. So I ended up picking A-Rod, just because as long as he stays healthy, he's always going to be solid. He's not a crazy good fantasy guy, but again, he's going to be my backup, and I can always play the field on the waiver wire with him. But I also filled it out with Cowboys defense, which I'm not super thrilled by them. I'm thinking about actually going with Houston, if they shit the bed. And then I got Cameron Dicker as my kicker. That was just sort of like a random, like, okay, cool, him. I honestly just wanted him just because of his name, Dicker the kicker. But overall, like, I feel like my lineup, I mean, besides, Trey Benson and, Donnie Mitchell, everybody else that I drafted is projected almost 12 points for this first week. And
Yeah.
everybody in my starting lineup, I mean, the lowest scoring projection in my lineup besides my kicker and defense is Kyle Pitts, who's still projected 11 in a PPR league as a tight end. Um, so yeah, we will see how my team goes, but I was very proud of how this draft went. I think it was one of my strongest drafts I've ever had, and honestly, I kind of wanted to gloat it a little bit because I just thought I actually had a really good draft. I've had drafts where I've kind of been like, man, I had a pretty good draft, and then I look and I'm like, man, I really didn't have that great of a draft. So I came into it with like a really good mindset. I was like one of the only ones that was still like sober at my draft
Yeah.
too, which I think helped. And I was just locked in, and I've been fucking ready to go to win this league for a while. I got second last year, so this is my year this year, I think. So, um, and we still got the dynasty league, and
Yep.
I don't know how that's gonna go because it's basically just a rookie draft. I think it's like 4 rounds.
It's 4 rounds.
So, um, we'll see what I end up being able to get. I don't. We don't even know our draft order for that yet. So hopefully we'll have a update for you guys on that. But I just wanted to share our fantasy teams and stuff like that since we did our mock draft. But yeah, we can go ahead and move into some Browns talk, which there is just a few things that have happened today. One big one that we'll get into here in a minute, but the 53-man roster is officially good, at least for now.
Yeah.
Practice squad guys are pretty much on there for now. I think practice squad changes quite a bit. So it's not really, I wouldn't really look into that too hard, but at least for this week, everybody that's on the final roster at least is probably a lock. So I guess we can just kind of go from position to position and just kind of give our 2 cents on if we thought they got it right, or if we thought that they could have done more there, or what what else we could see from there. So, obvious one to start with is quarterbacks. I think we all knew what the top three quarterbacks are going to be. I know there was kind of a debate on if it was going to be, um, you know, was it going to be DTR as the quarterback three, or was it going to be Huntley? And at first, it ended up being all four made it. And then earlier today, Huntley got booted. I think they were trying to find a little trade partner, and the trade value just probably wasn't there, and they just decided to
Yeah.
cut ties. That one was a pretty much a given. I really didn't think the Browns wanted to move away from DTR, and I don't even think they ever wanted to trade him. And there was no point in getting rid of Jameis because you paid him as much as you were going to pay Flacco, and if you let Flacco go, why did you pick up Winston if you were just going to get rid of him? So I thought they were fine with that. Do you have any gripes about the quarterback room? Because obviously Watson's QB1. It seems like everything's going to be fine, and he's going to play week one. So nothing really too concerning for me there. I don't really think they got anything wrong on that one so far.
No, quarterbacks are what we all expected it to be. We knew the three was going to be Watson, Winston, and DTR. I thought DTR looked so good in camp and so good in preseason. No, don't get me wrong, Huntley did as well, but I think they were just really like DTR younger, a lot more to improve, and you know the way he's been looking, he maybe potentially be the franchise guy next.
Yeah.
So there's that option as well. So there was definitely, and I know a lot of people were starting rumors
Yeah.
about like, oh, Huntley's gonna stay and DTR is gonna be the one that's traded and whatnot and this and that, and or they're gonna get rid
And
of Jameis Winston and it's gonna be
because
Huntley
he's,
and
because Watson is scared that
yeah,
everybody likes Winston more. And oh my God, the
the
rumor
same
wheel was awful the last few days.
the same thing that happened with quote unquote Joe Flacco because Joe Flacco apparently scared Deshaun Watson even though you see
Yeah.
them chest bumping on the sidelines all the fucking time and whatnot. So we all knew those were fake. At least the real fans knew it was fake. Um, but yeah, the three quarterbacks were guaranteed, and we probably could have told you what the three quarterbacks were going to be
Yeah.
from the get
Yeah.
go.
And honestly, starting to move into wide receivers, I don't think there was really any. And honestly, even tight ends, I really don't think there's any major like wows or anything with that. I really think the top six in terms of wide receivers was pretty much a lock. Stefanski really likes David Bell a lot, and I thought he was easily going to be either 5 or 6 on that. And Tillman has looked great in camp, so I knew he made it. Jamari Thrash was really the only one that people were going to be kind of like, hey, I don't know. And he had a great preseason
Yeah,
in a great camp. So I think he earned that final spot of being a wide receiver, 6. And that's fine. That's where he needs to be because he then gets to learn behind guys like Amari, Jerry Judy, and Elijah Moore. And, when you have that top three and then you have guys like Bell and Tillman to sort of back up on, you at least know your guys, and I really do expect guys like Tillman to have an increased role this year.
yeah,
Even when we still have Jerry Judy, I really don't think that's going to slow him down from getting a lot of reps because Tillman still played a good bit last year as a rookie. He made some good plays, and he also had some rough times where he wasn't able to really catch the ball. I think year two is it's just going to be a lot different for him. So I really didn't think they got that wrong. And then with tight ends, they only kept 2 for now. I know they just signed another 1 or 2 to the practice squad, but our top tight ends are obviously Njoku and Akins. Again, I really don't think there's any major wows. We knew those 2 tight ends were going to be. It was just a matter of are they going to keep 2 or 3. And so I think with them keeping 2 and keeping as many linemen as they did, I really think they're just going to go with the same philosophy that they did last year, which is, you're using a spare lineman as a potential fullback if you're going in the I formation or as a, extra puller, instead of getting a fullback or having another tight end do that for you. So, any gripes at all so far about the wideouts and the tight ends?
again, no. I mean, it's people again we expected to see in the lineup. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Jerry Judy. Obviously, we expected Bell and Cedric Tillman to be there as well. And it was really just a battle between Jamari Thrash and Michael Woods. And again, I know people had gripes that Michael Woods should have made it and maybe throw Thrash in the practice squad. But again, Thrash looked so much better than Michael Woods, and I think Michael Woods was put back onto the
Yeah,
practice squad
yeah, he is.
earlier
So I
today.
mean, you didn't really lose them. You just
So
you just put them on the practice squad.
yeah, so you didn't lose him. He was released, but then brought back onto the practice squad. So it's not like he's not available in case if something happens with Jamari Thrash. I just like Jamari Thrash better because he's faster. He's like Anthony Schwartz, but with hands.
Hmm.
Essentially, you want everything you want Anthony Schwartz to be, but can actually catch the football.
Yeah,
So that's really Jamari Thrash, and I think he'll fit very well. And again, the tight ends just a normal 2, Jordan
yeah.
Akins and David. Nothing's to gripe about there at all.
Yeah. It was really, again, just seeing if they were going to keep 2, 3, or even 4, because Stefanski was
Mm.
was known for that at one time. But I think with the Ken Dorsey offense, you don't need more than 2 or 3 unless you just need someone to back him up as a injury sort of risk. But yeah, so moving on to running backs, Nick Chubb is obviously on the pup list, and so is Hines as well. So those guys are both going to miss the first 4 games of the season, which we did expect. We weren't sure exactly what was going on with Chubb because they were so silent about it, but I think we could have both, assumed that Chubb was going to start the year on the IR list for that first 4 games, and I'm fine with that. I think bringing him back slowly is really going to benefit him a lot. and it gives him a chance to continue to heal and do what he's got to do. But once Chubb is ready, he's going to be really ready. So keeping Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong, and then they just re-added Foreman after they released Huntley today. So now you have that three running backs. I really don't see anything wrong with that, and I wasn't really not expecting that. But I am going to be very curious when the likes of Hines and even Chubb come back in this room, what that room then looks like.
Yeah.
Pierre Strong looked pretty good last year in the few moments that he had. I don't know how he's going to look in this offense, but Foreman, I kind of like Foreman a lot, and I really am going to be bummed if he ends up getting released once that does happen, because I feel like you got to have Hines and Chubb paired up with it, with Jerome Ford, and the only way that doesn't happen is if Jerome Ford might get hurt, or he just shits the bed so badly that they're like, oh man, we got to release him, and I just don't see that happening. So keeping Ford strong and in Foreman for now, it makes sense. I don't have any gripes there.
Nope.
And then moving to the linemen, obviously Batonio, Conklin, Nick Harris, Hudson. Kind of surprised about Hudson. He was one guy that I was really not too high on. But ultimately, I get it. He at least has the continuity there. And then we have Javion Cohen, who I think impressed a lot of people. Already said Nick Harris. Obviously, he was traded from Seattle this year, so back with us again. He's probably going to have a similar role where he's able to be that sort of fullback for us and that I formation stuff that Stefanski loves to run. So I will not be surprised if you see him in that role again. And as our backup, snapper, since what's his name from Ohio State got hurt. I forget his name. But he's on IR. And then you obviously got DeJuan Jones, Ethan Pocic, Teller, Jed, and Zinter, who I think is going to impress a lot this year too. Um, you know, I don't really have gripes on everybody that we kept, but I am curious with the whole Jed thing, with Jack Conklin starting to come back. It sounds like he's starting to take reps at left tackle, um, which I would assume means that DeJuan Jones is going to be at that right tackle spot. But once Jed comes back, I mean, can you afford to not start DeJuan Jones? And I heard this on 92.3 of The Fan, and I kind of want your thoughts because I don't think there's a world where you can afford after how well DeJuan Jones played for us when he was, healthy.
Yeah, I think you almost start Dewan Jones over Jed Wills, and again, this is what you should do: is you should keep Jed Wills as just the backup in case if something happens to Dewan Jones. That you have a solid backup behind him.
Yeah.
So
Just be sort of that like swing man guy that we had
yeah,
in like Hubbard back in the day, where he was just able to kind of plug and go.
exactly.
Because I know they're paying him a little more, but you're paying Conklin more, and
You have to start
you
Conklin.
have to start Conklin. And honestly, if Conklin plays well at left tackle, I don't think there's any reason for you not to just keep rolling with it because
Yeah,
he's an all pro. He has been to Pro Bowls. The dude knows how to play, and I know he's been hurt a lot. He talked about his knee injury last year, and he basically tore everything. And
yeah,
so for him to even come back at this rate is insane. But maybe putting him at that left tackle spot can give him a chance to kind of save that knee, um, and put a lot less pressure on it. And again, if he can fill the void and he can still play well, there's no reason why you can't have him play. But yeah, I don't know. Wills, DeJuan Jones, and Conklin are going to be a mystery for us, but you still have Batonio, you still have Wyatt Teller, and I thought Zach freaking Zinter had a hell of a preseason this year. I think
yeah.
he is going to come on wonderfully, and if we get either of our guards get hurt this year, he's going to be a guy that you could plug in, and he's not going to miss a beat. He might make a mistake here and there, but I don't think he's going to miss a beat. I think he's just a smart kid that just knows what he needs to do on the football field.
Yeah, he's smart. He's athletic. We saw obviously the training camp videos of him with I think it was Wyatt Teller, and Wyatt Teller's like, "Hey, on this, do this and this instead of doing this." And like, you had a lot of the guys look over and they're kind of like coaching Zach Zinter because I think they see what this kid can do and how special this kid is.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed watching that, and I enjoyed watching Zach Zinter in the preseason just actually ball out and play very, very well. So he's definitely gonna be a guy that what if any of the inside offensive linemen get injured, you could see him just plug right in and just go for it.
Yeah.
So, and I like the idea of keeping Nick Harris too because again, like you did on the goal lines or like third and shorts, having Nick Harris is kind of like the guy behind the quarterback and playing that fullback role and making lanes for maybe Jerome Ford or in this case probably Deontay Foreman and just letting them bulldoze their way through. So I thought that was a smart move to get Nick Harris back, and even if you just use it for those types of plays, it's very effective, and the Browns love those plays, and they were effective. They worked really well.
Yeah. And Weipler was the guy that got
Luke
hurt.
Weipler, yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, keeping him, but also, let's say in a shitty world, Pochitz goes down, then okay, you put Nick Harris there, and then you can put a guy like Hudson, or you can even put a Zach, Zinter in that spot to do the pulling and do that sort of full back role because I know Hudson has done that too. So again, you do have that sort of full flexibility, and that's the reason that
I
you
think
bring those
I
guys back.
I just think with all the offensive tackle injuries we had last season, they just didn't take any fucking chances and just said
Mm-hmm.
every offensive tackle we have in camp, you're basically on the
Yeah,
roster
yeah,
because
and you're
we
gonna
can't
learn
take any
everything.
more. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can't take any chances because
yeah,
we want to make sure we have somebody available to play. We don't have to go out and try and sneak people off of other lineups or off of a practice squad. So I think it was very smart of them to keep all the offensive linemen that they have because it was legit 10 offensive linemen and they needed every bit of them. I don't care if you hate James Hudson. I don't care if you hate Jed Wills. They're the offensive tackle position is probably the most important position on the field just because they are very scarce and hard to come by.
yeah.
And you need as many as you can get.
Especially when there is as many uh, good DNs,
Yeah.
and in this league, and especially when it comes to left tackle, I think it's always like a tough
And,
position to be
and
in. So you gotta have them.
and teams won't give up their tackles either. If they have a
No,
good tackle, they're not going to give them up. They're going to keep them
yeah,
for the rest of their career. And I know there's one tackle who is holding out,
and it's Trent
and
Williams.
it's Trent Williams in San Francisco. And I would love to have him, but he's going to command big money,
Yeah,
and I don't think
even
you're.
at his age.
I don't like as good as he is, even for his age. He's just turned 36 not that long ago.
Yeah,
He he's
I'm good.
he's insane, but I'd rather keep the young core that we have.
Yeah, I agree. So moving over to the defensive side of the ball, again, I'm actually not really going to list every, say the single player. The defensive line pretty much looks the same as it did last year. The only new face that you have there is Quentin J. Jefferson. Obviously,
Yeah.
Mike Hall was put on the exempt list, so he's not currently on the roster, quote unquote. But once he does, I'm assuming Jefferson would be the guy that is going to get the boot. But you still have, the likes of obviously Miles Garrett, Ogbo, Za'Darius, Shelby Harris, Maurice Hurst, Dalvin Tomlinson's back, Alex Wright is back, and Isaiah McGuire fills out the defensive end role. And then when you move into linebackers, there is some new faces. So we obviously have, Jock and Tony Fields are really the only guys that we brought back from last year. This
And
linebacker room
DeVite.
is, yeah. But this linebacker room is a much different room. So you have obviously Devin Bush, Diabate, Jordan Hicks, who's probably going to be our starting middle linebacker, and then Nathaniel Watson, who I don't really know too much about, but I do really like Diabate. I think he looked really good last year, and I think he had a solid preseason. Devin Bush played a lot this preseason as well, so he's gotten a lot of reps. I think he'll be a solid will for us. And then obviously when you bring in a guy like Jordan Hicks, who has all of the continuity and also just all of the experience that he does, I think he's going to fill the role better than Walker did for us, and hopefully he stays healthier than Walker did. But the plus there is you still have Jock, and he's one of the best linebackers in the league, and he just got paid as such. So it's really cool to see some new people actually on this starting roster, and I'm really glad that we kept guys like Diabate and Fields gets another shot. Fields, I think, is in his third or fourth year now, so this is going to be sort of his last opportunity to really show if he can stick on this lineup or not. And if not, I mean, that's going to be a guy that the Browns are going to move on from after this year. So I think Tony Fields has a lot to prove, but he's good in coverage, he's a solid tackler, and I know he's pretty good on special teams as well. And so is Diabate. So I think him and even Watson are probably going to be guys you're going to see a lot on special teams. And then obviously we have the cornerback room. I mean, our cornerback room is some of the best guys. I mean, obviously we have Martin, Emerson, Greg Newsome, Ward, who is back from concussion protocol. It seems like he's going to be cleared for week 1. Newsome is back as well. It seems like everything's good on him. Doesn't seem anything wrong there. And then we have that Miles Harden kid, Cameron Mitchell, and Halasey or Halasey. I don't really know how to say his last name. So he sort of fills out that room. Miles Harden had a really good preseason, and Cameron, Mitchell has been a pretty solid slot guy for us. So he sort of fills out not slot, but covering the slot, aka nickel. So nothing really new there either. And then the safeties, I mean, I think everybody that we brought in is exactly who we had from last year, literally. Uh, you know, Anthony Bell, Grant Delpit, Ronnie Hickman, McLeod, and Thornhill. I know Hickman has been dealing with a hammy. I think Bell is also dealing with something as well. But you bring back Delpit, you bring back McLeod, and you bring back Juan Thornhill. Those guys, when all three were healthy, were really, really good. And I think bringing back McLeod this year is going to be really beneficial for us because I think he was a really good communicator for us on the defensive end. It really helped those guys stay in line when he was there. So I don't have anything to really gripe about. Obviously, you have our special teams guys too, and D Hop, Corey Bjorkis, and there's always the GOAT Charlie Huglet, who is pretty much the longest standing Brown on the team next to Petonio, and that's the roster. So when it came down to it, I really don't think the Browns did anything that nobody expected. I really think they didn't really do anything really pretty or anything like fancy. They just had the guys that they knew they needed to bring in, and I don't think there was any surprises. But I just wanted to go over, the roster because they're finally set, and that's always a big deal. Captains were announced today, so I think the captains are Miles, Ward, Watson, Huglet, and I think there was one more maybe.
I
I think
remember. I remember.
there was 5 of
Basically
them
saying
total.
it. Yeah, he said it was Hewlett, Ward, um,
Watson,
Miles,
Miles.
Watson. Yeah, and God, who was the fifth? Was it Nick?
No, it wasn't Nick.
Nick wasn't.
Trying to remember.
I'm trying to think because I think it was an offensive foot. It has to be Amari then.
Let me see if I
I
can
would assume it'd be Amari Cooper,
find.
unless they gave it to Jordan Hicks as like a defensive
Right.
I got as another defensive captain.
I know they put it out, so I'm just trying to find the damn tweet. Um, just because it's usually so much easier to find the damn tweet, but for whatever reason, I can't find it.
5 hours ago, Stefanski announced it was Joel Bitonio, Miles Garrett,
That's who it was.
Charlie
Tony was the last
Hewlett,
one.
Denzel Ward, and Deshaun Watson. So it was Joel Bitonio.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, obviously no shock there.
No shot.
And then, so the other big news today was Watson's restructure, which was very bound to happen. And I know that there was a lot of people that were kind of complaining, like, "Hey, why hasn't this gotten done? The Browns could save so much cap, blah blah blah." And I think we all just kind of knew at some point this was going to happen. And I think similarly, we did this last year where we sort of waited on, it was either Watson or guys like Ward or whatever. that we decided to wait and then do this. And so now you have 62 million in cap. That's the most in the NFL now. With the Ayuk stuff, you know that they're not going for Ayuk because he's locked down in San Fran. So really, I think them getting this cap room is really just for rollover for next year. And I think this comes down to being able to re-sign certain guys. Whether they decide they want to extend the likes of Cooper, you have Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome. You could have a Myles Garrett extension. Um, you know, there could be also a list of other guys. Jed is going to be one. You got to see what you got to do with Conklin. Like again, there's going to be plenty of moves that we are going to have to make and are going to have to make a decision on. And so I think they did that now, basically just as a way of being like, okay, let's just roll this over for the next year, and that way we put ourselves in a better position to sign these guys or go out and go make a splash if you really feel like you have to. But they know that the cap is going to keep going up, and they know that guys are going to be on some of the back end of their deals by 2025. So they know, guys like Miles, they're going to be owed a little bit more, and also they're going to probably want to extend him. So that's the nature of the business. So, what's your thoughts on the restructure? I know before we started doing this earlier that we were sort of ranting a little bit of just how annoyed we were with just how people just keep bitching about this stuff when it comes to AB, it's inevitable that this is going to happen. And he may suck at drafting defensive tackles, but he can restructure the hell out of deals anytime he wants.
Yeah, dude, it was. I think it was spectacular what he just did. Like,
Yeah.
you sat there and you converted 44.79 million of his base salary into signing bonuses, creating 35.832 million in cap space, obviously giving you that 62 million in total cap,
Yeah.
making it the best in the league. This is just what Andrew Berry does.
Yeah.
This is his specialty. It's restructuring deals, making people happy, and saying, listen, we're going to keep using this money that we restructure these deals. We're going to keep getting better players. We're going to keep getting better and better and better every year. We lose a guy, we're going to plug a hole. We're going to plug that hole. We lose this person, we're going to plug that hole.
Yeah.
And it just gives them more leeway. It could just, for this year, it could just be rollover cap into next year so that way they don't go under. So, and not do what I think it was Atlanta did with Matt Ryan, where they kept restructuring his deal and then they ended up putting him in cap hell because then
Yeah.
they did it like 4 years in a row, and then they're like, oh shit, now we're like 60 million under or something. They're like crazy, and
Yeah.
so I think Andrew Berry learned from that and said, yeah, I'm gonna restructure this, and we're probably just gonna roll over this cap into next year, so we're not in cap hell.
Yeah.
And I this man's a genius. Like, there's nothing more to say, but this guy is an absolute, just straight up genius.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I don't know why there's any doubt. When it comes to that, again, I know he has had problems with drafting.
Mm-hmm.
He's whiffed on some guys. Like Ika was a sort of surprise cut. But also like again, sometimes when guys don't pan out, it is better to just do it now than to try to sort of
Make it
have it
work.
go over and over. Like Jordan Elliott, he was a guy that we kept for 3 years, and we were like, oh yeah, he's gonna make that bounce. He's gonna make that next jump, and he just never fucking did.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where sometimes you just gotta make the cuts and make the decisions. And don't think they were wrong in doing that. That room is pretty much covered anyway. There was no reason to keep Ika here. He can probably go play somewhere else and have his own success in a better position than being sort of on that back end of that D tackle room. I know he did a lot of work in trying to lose weight, it not be as big as he was, and listen, it's the nature of the business. But when it comes to restructures, this is AB's bread and butter. He's done it too many times, and I think he's sort of getting known for this now, to the point where it's just, again, it was inevitable. So um, I'm just really tired of people complaining. And look, back to Watson. When it comes to the expectations for him, I get it. He has not been able to prove what he needs to prove as this $230 million guaranteed quarterback that we have. But we just need to give him the chance. And I understand that people are going to be critical. I understand. But the season has not even started, and people are being so pessimistic about it that it's almost making it difficult for me to stay on Twitter, because everybody just has an opinion and they think that it matters, and it just doesn't. Um, have your opinion, but be open to what other people are trying to say to you, or just don't worry about putting that opinion out. And that's the point of opinions, is you're allowed to bend them and sort of, talk about them and why you feel that way. That's what an opinion is. It's not a fact. And the fact of the matter is Watson was 5-1 last year as our quarterback. So he didn't play the greatest, but he was winning us games. He was not losing us games, which is more important. He's gonna struggle. He's gonna have his moments, but as long as he wins games for us, I don't really think it matters. And I think that's all we need to worry and focus on. But to sit here and like almost root for it, like there's fans like almost rooting for Watson's demise. And if you're rooting for Watson's demise, you're rooting for Cleveland's demise. And if that's your level of thinking as a Cleveland fan, go watch the Bengals then. Like go root for another team, because I don't want you to be a part of this fan base, as toxic as we are, at times. I don't want that.
Well,
If you're rooting for his downfall, you're rooting for our downfall too.
what I find funny is too is that I don't think the fans even understand that. Like, if you're rooting for Watson to fail, you're just rooting for us to lose
Mm-hmm.
because Watson's a big part of the team, and he's gonna be a reason this year we're probably gonna win a lot of games. So if you're rooting for him to be bad and wanting Jameis Winston to start, you're rooting for this team to go down and lose games. And then everyone's like, "Oh well, I want Watson to be bad, but I want the Browns to win." Well, those things don't correlate. They can never correlate because you can only be as good as your team, and your QB is a big part of that team. We're 5-1 underneath him. He was 5-1 last year. We're 7-4 underneath him, something close to that. Like, he's not been bad. Like, and I mentioned this on Twitter because people are talking like, "Oh, well, Watson didn't play in the Seattle game in a preseason." And first off, I said, "Okay, what does him throwing 10 passes mean in a meaningless preseason game? It doesn't mean shit because number one, he's throwing it to third string wide receivers,
Yeah.
and he's also going up against a second, third string defense in Seattle. It's not like he's playing Seattle. He's playing all the backups, and he's playing with backups. So him making 10 passes to Jamari Thrash isn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't
It's
make
just
him
not.
better. It doesn't indicate what's going to go on the season because guess what? If he went 1 for 10, it's not going to matter because that doesn't guarantee he's going to suck this season. If he went 10 for 10,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean he's going to be good for the season. So him playing in that game was going to be meaningless anyways, and I don't get why people are so up in arms of him not playing because I don't think they realize that the only reason why we have preseason games in the NFL is so the NFL can just make more money earlier in the season.
Yeah.
It's just for money. It's not for anything else, just for money. So why would you let Watson get injured again in a meaningless preseason game if it were to happen? I wouldn't want to risk my starting quarterback to get an injury in a bullshit game that does not matter whether you win or lose. And
Especially when you don't have your starting lineman on top of that.
yeah, yeah, it just makes absolutely no sense to the, and it just kills me to see that people want to see Deshaun Watson go down. And like, don't get me wrong, I get it. What he's done in the past is not great,
Hmm.
but he is our quarterback, and we have to stand by him because we need to win football games, and he is a key to winning football games. And the last thing I said on Twitter, because people again were the up in arms into um him not playing in the preseason, I even mentioned, you know, what's more important? Because I know, and I said this is going to happen during the season too. I was like, people are going to be pissed off because Deshaun Watson didn't go for 300 plus yards per game, throwing multiple touchdowns, maybe one or no interceptions, and he didn't do that for every single game. I was like, the thing is like, again, those don't matter because number one, he could do all of that and still fucking lose the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's it matter? I was like, and some guys were like, well, he doesn't look good. He has a low QBR rating. I was like, okay, in the games he won, I was like, he threw for barely 220 yards, maybe one or two touchdowns, one or two picks, had a very low QBR, but guess what? We won the fucking game. And I was like, I don't care if he throws for 300 yards a game or 200 yards a game. Hell, he could
Yeah.
throw for 150 yards a game. As long as that at the end of that game, there's a W on the sheet for us, that's all that matters to me is that W. I don't care if he's not throwing for 350 yards like he was in Houston. At the end of the day, as long as we see the W next to our name,
That's all that matters.
I'm cool.
Yeah.
Like we're good. Like he could throw for 150 yards, one touchdown, two picks. Look at PJ Walker's season with us.
Yeah.
He literally threw for 150 yards, like two picks, one touchdown.
And we still beat San Fran with those stats pretty much.
He didn't even throw a touchdown against San Fran.
No,
He literally threw for 145 yards, two picks, and we still beat San Francisco.
because
Eh,
we had one of the best kickers and we had a random fake QB sneak pitch to Kareem Hunt that went for a
Yeah,
touchdown. Like
yeah,
that's how we scored our only touchdown on that game. We just played the hell out of defense and we wrote it. And Watson is going to make plays. He's also going to make mistakes. But Watson has the capability of winning you games more than losing. And when you have a solid ass defense like we do, and you have the ability to get Nick Chubb back midway through this season, that like this team is destined to do well. And we have bigger, better pieces. Um, bringing in guys like Judy, having guys like Tillman taking that next step on offense. I think even Foreman, I think, is actually going to be a really great like fit for us when Chubb is out, and that's going to be the one thing that I'm really going to look for is like who ends up having to make through that once Nick Chubb and Hines both come back because Pierre Strong is going to get his time too with Jerome Ford, so
yeah.
it's going to be interesting. But this team is in a good position, and they have brought back basically all of their linemen. Uh, you know, I'm really high on Zinter. There's just this is a good roster and it's coached well, and I'm really looking forward to see what the actual offense is going to look like under Ken Dorsey and Kevin Stefanski. And I think we got a little taste of that against Seattle when Dorian Thompson was really trying to air it out, and even Huntley was airing it out to Woods. Like guys were starting to make plays, and if Watson can do stuff like that, this team can score 28 plus points a game easily because they just have the capability of scoring. So I get it. I get why people have the feeling that they do. And again, I'm just trying to inform people that it hasn't happened yet. We need to just wait and see. And I'm tired of people talking so negatively about it. Basically, it's that old like Browns feeling that people have had that they still haven't gotten out of their minds, where it's like they have to talk down on the team as if they just expect that to happen when that's not the expectation anymore. The expectation is to win. That's what we want. And that's what this team is capable of. They're not a 4-win team anymore. This is a 10 to 12 win team this year if they really bust their ass and really play well on the hardest schedule in the NFL too. We have the hardest ranked schedule uh, game by game this year. So it's not like this year's going to be easy either. But if we can stay at the top of the AFC North, which is also the toughest division in the entire league as well, like doesn't matter if Watson throws for 28, touchdowns, or if he throws for 40. It really doesn't matter. Just as long as he stays healthy and as long as he wins us games, nothing else matters. So that's kind of my final thought. I don't really want to get into game predictions yet for them because I do want to get a little bit into Ohio State. I know we've been talking for 55 minutes, but I think we're going to talk for about another 15 to 20 minutes because Ohio State football, we're back this Saturday. Obviously we have some college games going on tonight. One of them being Colorado, I think, playing as well, which I know a lot of people are like, they have a lot of mixed feelings about. After last year, Shadir's obviously got a big name for himself, and they got some really fun players. But to go to Ohio State, I mean, they obviously play Akron. So it's not like this is going to be a game that I'm assuming, honestly, the starters might not play for the whole game. They might only play a half or three quarters. It just depends on how big we go up on them. But we're currently a 48.5 point favorite on FanDuel. That could change, but I think over 50 is honestly in the books. I think that is very easy to do. So what's your thought for for first off on just Ohio State, football being back, but also the idea of just playing these small schools, like how do you feel about it? Because I have a weird taste in my mouth in it, because I don't like that we get to show up at the end, end of the season and go, oh well, we beat Akron and we beat Western Michigan and we beat Marshall. It's like, okay, cool, but who else did you beat? So what do you think about starting off the year with games like this?
Well, first and foremost, I'm just excited that football's back and Ohio State's back. These bad boys. And to be honest, I actually don't mind playing small teams like Akron or like Kent State or Western Michigan, Central Michigan. It doesn't bother me because I think it's good for both programs. I think it's more of a tune-up game for a lot of these bigger teams before they fully get into the season to play tougher opponents. And also too, it benefits teams like Akron because they get big money out of playing guys like Ohio State, Alabama. Like Kent State last year played Alabama. It's more for those smaller schools to get more money for their football program. So I don't mind it because Kent State, Akron, when they go to these big games, they know they're gonna get their asses kicked like
And
55 nothing. But
they're getting paid to do it. So
and they're getting paid to do it, and that's the big thing. And it's not like they're getting paid like a small chunk of it. They're getting paid a few million, if
millions,
not
yeah.
like a few million up to maybe like 10 or so million. Like they're a few million.
It's at least
And
like 1 to 2, I think, is the
I think
majority of those payments.
I think it's 1 to 3 million is like the majority of those payments, but it's it's great for like Akron. Yeah, they're getting their asses kicked, but they're getting paid to get their butts kicked. It's great for Ohio State because again, it's a tune-up game. It gets to see you get to see how their starters work out. It's almost like a preseason game for college
Yeah,
football.
really is.
You get to see the starters come out and play and see how they do and mesh together. It just gives everyone that kind of like tune-up game feel and like
Yeah.
the like. Listen, we need to. It's a way to work on plays, which plays work, which plays don't. It's just a fun way to just figure things out before you start getting into the nitty gritty of your schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
So
don't mind it.
no, and I mean, again, it is weird, but also I think the Big Ten got a lot better this year.
Yeah.
Adding the teams that they did. Oregon being here, Washington,
USC.
UCLA, USC. Yeah, like there's you know half of the Pac-12 is here now, and so
Yep.
that's gonna help elevate this current conference a lot more than it was because there were some parts of the Big Ten that are great, but there's also some parts of the Big Ten that are really really bad, and I think bringing in those teams are really going to help balance it out and really keep Ohio State's name. Like if they're going to go undefeated, it's via they're going to have to play Oregon and instead of like that, and those are going to be hard games for us to play, and they're going to challenge us, and that's what we need. So. Um, I'm not too worried about it, but it is goofy because again we're 48.5 point favorites, and again that could very well change. It could end up being over 50 by the time the game rolls around. But I do want to say this Ohio State roster is arguably, I would say, the best overall team that we have had, even since before the championship. That championship team we had 2015 was solid, but I don't know if they were this talented. Maybe on defense we were better, but this team offensively is young and very, very, very scary. And it all starts in the running back room.
Yeah.
We have the best running back duo in the entire nation. You bring in Will Howard at quarterback, and you have a lot of young talent behind him as well. And you have a young but very talented wide receiver core. You bring back, Ibuka. Uh, you know, Carnell Tate is going to get a lot more reps, which I'm really excited about. You obviously have Jeremiah Smith and in the slot who is going to start. That is confirmed. He's the first freshman in the Ryan Day era. I do believe to start as a true freshman. And then you still have Innes, and you still have a lot of these other guys that are going to be very productive for us. And we're a solid 5 or 6 wide receivers deep that are absolutely insane. I think you probably brought back almost every lineman that you had, and then on on defense, we brought back pretty much everybody as well besides Mike Hall, and I think I forget what his first name is, but that Steel kid, or Steel Chambers, I think was his name.
I'm looking. I'm
He
trying to look
he
at
was a
it.
linebacker for us. I don't know if he played last year or not. I honestly forget, but point is we've brought back a lot of guys. And guys like Cody Simon are going to be really, really good for us. You bring back your entire cornerback room again. Your DB room has been exponentially better because you bring in a guy like Caleb Downs, who was the top safety in the league well, not in the league but in college football last year, and I'm pretty sure he was a freshman last year. So you have so much talent on this team. There is zero reason why this team cannot go undefeated and play for a national championship this year.
No, I think you have a great team, and I think is it Sonny Styles that you're talking about.
Maybe. No, it was Steel Chambers, but I don't know if he played last year or the year before that. But he was like a fifth year guy at that time.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, yeah,
but the point is we brought back a majority of our guys. Mike Hall
yeah,
is a really only big one that we lost.
yeah, because you still have JT in the lineup, Tuamalu.
Mhm.
He's been really good, but like you said, this offense is probably one of the best offenses we would have seen in a very long time. You have the likes of Will Howard, and you still have great quarterbacks behind him, and Devin Brown and
Julian
Julian
somewhere.
Sand,
Yeah.
Lincoln Keenholz, and obviously in the
Aaron Nolan.
backpack, Aaron Nolan in the
Yeah.
backpack.
Yeah.
So this offense is great. Again, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka. You have Will Howard, Keyshawn Junkins, who is
Yeah.
an absolute stud running back
Travion
at Kansas
Henderson as
State.
well, who's been starting for 3 years now, and
Yeah.
he was a guy who could have went like the second round last year in the NFL draft, and now you have two guys at the running back position that can go both in the first round with how good they are.
Yeah.
Again, just to bring this team back, like this team is absolutely built to go all the way, and personally. We were very critical of Ryan Day last year. This is not a shut up year for him. You have zero excuse
Excuses.
to lose to the likes of Michigan. If you lose to Oregon, I kind of understand, but I think a lot of people that are picking or like Oregon to beat us are sort of jaded in their thinking when they saw us lose to them last year or lose to them 2 years ago when we had Stroud. Um, Listen, this team is a lot different, and we'll going from who the fuck was our quarterback last year to going to Will Howard. Um,
Um.
that's just night and day difference.
Yeah. I'm
Whatever the
trying to.
fuck his name is, he's at Syracuse now. I don't even remember his name because he was so bad. Um, it's bothering me that I don't know, but also like that's how over it
Um.
I was after that fucking Michigan game.
Oh God, who is it's bothering me now too. I have to look it up
Yeah, I mean, you might as well now.
because it's annoying the hell out of me that I don't remember. Kyle McCord
Yeah, McCord. I mean, going from McCord's ass to going to Will Howard, who can actually run,
and throw the ball.
and mind you, this dude can run fast. Like he's hit 22 miles an hour apparently at practice. Like Will
He's
Howard can
fast as
run,
hell.
and he's a big dude. So like he did a lot of that at Kansas State, and I think he's in the best spot that he could be in because he's in a much better system. And I think bringing in Chip Kelly actually is really going to help that
Yeah. Oh my
with Will
God.
Howard. Like
I keep forgetting we have Chip Kelly.
yeah, like going even from Bill O'Brien to
Chip.
going to Chip Kelly, I think was actually a better move for us.
Yeah.
And again, it takes that off of Ryan Day, and Ryan Day can focus on being the head coach. But the pressure is still on Day, and I'm
Mhm.
telling you what, if Ryan Day gets fired, it's going to be Chip Kelly or Brian Hartline next. Anyway, that succeeds him. So
Mhm.
he has to win. Like at the very least, you have to beat Michigan, this year, which you should, because I'm pretty sure they're about to get the ban hammer of a lifetime.
They're about
Uh,
to, yeah.
like I mean, I don't know how much accuracy is in this, but I've heard they're gonna get wins vacated from 2021 to 2023. Like they are going to get the shit beat out of them.
Like so,
Um,
those wins that they had against us wouldn't even count,
yeah,
which
like
means they still wouldn't have beaten us since like 2000 and what
which
is
is
it like?
hilarious because like the Connor Stallions doc, it showed a lot,
It
and it
showed a
showed a lot of
lot.
lying too. Like there was a lot of like even when Portnoy literally was like, yeah, that was him on the sidelines at the
At
the way
CMU,
that at the SMU game,
he's
like,
like, yeah, he told me.
and Stallions was just like, no, no, that wasn't me. Like in the doc, and then after that, he comes out and goes, "Yeah, he literally told me that was him." Like, it was just so funny him ratting out on his own
And
dude.
and I think what's funny too is like even Connor Stallings like told on himself. He's like,
Yeah,
oh
he
yeah,
did.
I did this. Like, oh, did you send friends and family to other games and have them record or other people
Yeah,
to go record? And he goes, yeah, I got a couple text messages of videos from people who I bought tickets for and had them record games. I was like, do you not realize there's just cameras in every single stadium and they just know where what ticket they had and where they sat and and what they did because they could literally just go and be like, "Oh yeah, this guy's out recording." And even that was it that Buckeye fan? I can't remember his name. He goes, "I remember a guy in front of me recording the entire game." Like I was like,
yeah,
"Who the hell is this guy recording the entire football game?" And he's in like direct. All the tickets and the seats were directly behind the 50-yard line or on the 50-yard line, directly behind Ohio State's bench,
yeah,
and it's on purpose, like, and he can't sit there and say, well, I don't remember, I sent tickets to my mom and my
yeah.
buddy, like doesn't mean you can't have them record for you and send
Right.
you video and shit, like they
But then
know
when
what you
they asked
do.
him, like, "Hey, did you ever have them send you videos and stuff?" He's like, "Well, I mean, yeah, kind of, but like it wasn't like that." And it's like, "Dog, you just ratted on yourself. You're so dumb."
Well, and the funny thing
So
is they're like and I love how like some like of his like friends in the doc and even his parents were like, well, other teams have signed stealers. I was like, yeah, but they do it legally.
yeah,
The obtain, I was like, they obtain footage legally. They obtain copies of teams, games, and trainings and stuff like that legally,
yeah,
and then they observe from that. They're not sending people to other games or pretending to dress up as someone else and going onto a college football staff that they didn't even know him
yeah,
and recording games and having a camera recording games like him going to CMU and they literally showed like the great picture of him wearing the shades and you
mm-hmm.
can see the light on the corner like literally just recording. He goes, that's not me. Those shades never don't record or whatever, and it's like
Yeah,
literally recording shade. And they even asked the Central Michigan head coach like, do you remember a picture of this guy? And he goes, I have nobody on my staff that looks like that. He's like, I don't know who the fuck that is. And it's like, bro, like you can't even say I don't recall being at a Central Michigan game. It's like,
yeah,
brother, the whole coaching staff didn't even know who you were.
yeah,
They didn't even realize you were on the field with them at the time.
yeah.
Like,
So
stop lying, dog.
yeah, it's super goofy, and I really thought it was super funny, uh, that
the
Michigan's gonna
last
get the hammer.
the last line too of the doc was the best line ever. Would I do it all again? Absolutely.
Yeah,
So like you're a fucking cheater. You would do it again.
yeah,
You
like that. The dude is actually insane. Like he is actually fucking insane. It's
It's crazy.
it's
The dude
ridiculous.
is crazy. Like it's so funny.
Yeah.
I
So
if you
yeah.
haven't seen it, it's like an hour and a half long. If you haven't seen the doc, it's on Netflix. It's like an hour and a half. It's
Oh yeah.
really good. It's really funny.
Yeah.
If you're
It's
an
super
Ohio
super
State fan
funny.
or other fan, it's funny.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I think what's even better is like the back and forth between Portnoy and what the fuck is his the OSU Barstools guy.
Oh
Like they're
yes,
going
yes.
back and
Back and
forth,
forth.
and it's so funny because the OSU Barstool guy is like killing poor Portnoy in these takes and like giving him all the info because
You're
basically
from
Portnoy,
Massachusetts.
yeah, he's like you were a Minnesota Vikings fan and now you are suddenly a Pats fan. He's like you were just a constant bandwagoner. Like that's what you do.
Yeah.
He's like I was born into this. Here's pictures of me in middle school getting my picture taken at at school with an Ohio State
His
jersey on.
He got swaddled as a newborn as soon as he came out of his mom's wound in an Ohio State blanket or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So I mean, it was just goofy. But before we get off to because obviously this game really isn't going to mean much for Ohio State. I mean,
Mhm.
you just win, you win, and as long as you win big, I don't think you're going to have any complaints about any fans. Because I think when you play teams like this, I think Ohio State is just they're put on this fucking pedestal to win by 60. And Ryan Day, since he's been here, that really hasn't been his thing. When
Yeah.
Urban was here, he was getting when he would play, OU, he would beat, Ohio 72 to 3. That was
Yeah.
his, motto. He didn't care. Uh Day really doesn't have that motto. So I'm kind of hoping he gets to be savage this year because he has a very savage team, and that would be a fun thing. But I do want to go over some of the bets that we could place. It just like our favorites for this game. So I currently have some stuff up on FanDuel. So again, I said that the spread was minus 48.5, and the under is actually 58.5. Now you can win. Uh, so they have bets like, if Ohio State wins in a shutout, it's plus 200. I don't think they're going to get a shutout. I actually think Akron will probably score like once or twice, whether it be a few field goals or even a touchdown, like early on, like they always do. The thing that I'm really not looking forward to, at least with this right now, I don't know if they're going to update this, but they have no bets on like players, as in like what they're gonna do. I really wanted to put a bet in on Junkins being the first scorer of the game for
Um,
us,
I
and I
think
can't.
I think there was a law that Ohio put out, and I think it was for college football that
Mm,
you can't bet on the players like individual stats
that's stupid.
because of I think it's like I think it like violates like NCAA bylaws or some shit like that. So I think it's they banned it. And they just placed it like a month ago or something.
Yeah. So I mean, there's still gonna be like score one spreads, and like little different score parlays, but you're not gonna have that that stuff. So I guess before I put my favorites out, I just want to see if you have any favorite bets that you wanted to add in there.
Um, I would definitely my favorite bet would probably just be the I would probably go with the over on the spread because I think Ohio State could easily cover the over 48.5. I think Ohio State is a team that can get 50 points on Akron.
Yeah.
And even if it's like, because I'm just gonna say outright my prediction is I said it was gonna be like 56-7. So I definitely think that they could easily get over that point spread and just absolutely decimate. But I do think Akron can get a touchdown. I do want to. I know you said there was one bet where it's like Akron getting like
Yeah.
a
So
score.
if they score over 3.5 points, it's plus 102, which I'm gonna take. Like I'm doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I think I would take that too because I think like I said, I think Akron can get at least a touchdown.
yeah. And they had because they have like so they have a spread parlay and they have a money line parlay. The money line parlay is also kind of cool. So, for Ohio State to win, and if they score, or if I think the over is just 60.5, it's plus 115. I think that's
Yeah.
money as well. So I would take that as well. Doing like correct score ones is the most difficult ones, but they have the craziest odds. So like, let's say you really do say that they are gonna win like 50-7. That's plus 23,000. So if you're very confident in that and you want to put a dollar on that, you're gonna make insane money. Um, but yeah, other than that, there's really not a whole lot else to do besides just the spread or money line. You can't do the money line on this one, which is kind of goofy. I don't know why. I don't know if that also just goes with the law or not, or if that's just because
No,
it changes.
you could bet on the money line, but I think it's just so ridiculously in Ohio State's favor that they just
Yeah,
locked it
they
because
probably
it's
just locked
not
it. Yeah.
it's not worth betting on because not even the sports book is gonna make money off of it because everyone knows that it would probably be like Ohio State minus like 50,000 or something, and there's like why would you even put this out? Like
Yeah.
this is a but I did look it up and it says yeah, the Ohio Casino Control Commission sent an agreement to approve a request from the NCAA to ban betting on college athletes. This would ban sportsbooks from offering bets on college football or basketball player individual statistics during games.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's for college football and basketball that you can't bet on player props in the NCAA because obviously again it's college kids and they don't want to have the rights to do so or something. They don't have
Right.
no state has like the right to do so essentially, and so you can't bet on. You can only bet on the basically just like the money line to spread or the over under. Essentially, that's the only things you can really bet on.
Yeah. So yeah, there's not really a whole lot to be able to bet on, but it is cool to still be able to. I am very bummed about that though, but that's why betting on the NFL is so much more fun because you can bet
Bet
on
on player
on the
props.
players, and I think that's where you really hit your money. When I hit that big bet last year with that Browns game, it really just came down to like the fact that I could
And actually,
win as
too,
much money as I did was pretty nuts.
and what we could do too for like every show is like on the bottom ticker, we could even place like our favorite bets
Hmm.
as well. Like right now, like I could just type in uh like favorite bets, and we said was it 48 and a half?
Yeah.
48 and a half on the spread, and Akron over 3.5 points.
Yeah.
That's so funny to say.
And it sucks too because you can't really parlay them either. I'm trying to and it
Yeah.
won't. So you guys are gonna do it individually. Um, but just to be able to do that, or even bet on like the spread itself, just like the alternative spread is pretty cool. Because if
So
you
there we
because
go.
after 50 point or after no after minus 49.5 is when it goes up to plus 108. So if you want to put a bet at 50.5, you're getting plus 116. So if you really think they're going to score over 55 points, it's double that. And so it just depends on how you look at it. It depends
Mhm.
on uh, what you want to bet there. But there's not really too much to bet with. I really wanted to have more fun with that, but FanDuel doesn't really have a lot, and unfortunately, we can't do that with the new law. So that's unfortunate. But hey, Ohio State's a huge favorite here. There's no reason why they can't win the games. There's not really much to talk about, but again, it's just nice to finally have college football back, and especially Ohio State football, because when the Browns were so bad for so long, it made me like a super fan of Ohio State just because of they were always good. So it was super easy to just root for them. So I guess before we get off here, you got any more thoughts? Anything else you wanted to speak on that we did not get to?
No, all I gotta say is football's back. Go Buckeyes, go Browns. And I can't wait for next week when we talk about the Browns because this NFL season's back, baby. And also check out our favorite bets. Are scrolling down on the ticker below. Ohio State, just the over on the spread at 48.5, and then obviously Akron team total over 3.5. Again, you can't. It doesn't seem like you can parlay both. You might be able to, not on FanDuel, but you might be able to on like Bet365 or like Caesars or so. If you can on any of those apps, please shoot us over a message if you can. I'm gonna
Yeah,
try it after we get off to see if I can do it on any of those other ones
yeah.
and see if we can't parlay and make some money. And we'll probably do some of these too for the NFL season too, like kind of
Oh
put like
yeah, for sure.
a couple of like our favorite. We might instead of just doing like favorite bets, we might do like Andrew's bets and like Zach's bet,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
we just give our like at least like two or three of, or just make like a two or three like parlay or something where we just give you some insight. And if you want to combine 4 or 6 of our picks together, then
Yeah.
fucking go for it.
Go for it. Yeah, because I mean, especially since we usually record, like record these on either Wednesdays or Thursdays. Pretty much lately, it's been every Thursday, to
Yeah.
put out tomorrow. We could even put some bets out for like that Thursday,
Yeah.
as
The
well.
Thursday night
But
game, yeah.
obviously, once we go out, we won't even have that out. So we'll see how we do on those, and just kind of see how we want to go over them, and just have like a overlay after, like the week after, to sort of see what we did. But we'll at least give you guys some stuff to use for those the Saturdays and the Sundays.
And we could even keep score of like how we do, like, oh, we're like 0-1 for our bets,
Yeah.
or like 1-0 or 2-0, like, so keep that in mind. We'll put that. I like having this like little ticker down below. It's kind of neat. Obviously, you saw earlier I put the breaking news of the Brandon Ayuk 4-year, $120 million deal with 76 million guaranteed. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll keep doing these favorite best things and just kind of add some more to our show, and we'll just keep having more fun with it.
Yep. And as always, just remember, we're just BSing around here, so don't take us too seriously. We'll see you guys next week.